Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 15 favourite films from 1979. This is all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and these are just my personal favourite top 15 films from this year. There's no definitive real list or placing for these films. This is just my personal opinion about how they're my favourite films. So all that being said, I just want to get into a small handful of honourable mentions from this year that I'm going to quickly run through before I get into the list. So films of to make note for, I think. So the first one I've got is great sort of little underrated horror film, Phantasm. Really gory and creepy, this one. Next up, I want to give a shout out to a little film called Hardcore with George C. Scott. Pretty much follows a guy who's looking for his daughter, who's run away, who's ended up joining the porn industry and becoming a porn star. And George C. Scott gives a fantastic performance at the end. When he sees actual footage of his daughter. Some real heartbreaking stuff. Next up is a film called Being There, starring Peter Sellers. Sort of about a gardener who, a simple-minded gardener who sort of becomes more than his worth for a pretty powerful businessman. Next up, the China Syndrome. Sort of great film about a conspiracy cover-up film about safety at a nuclear power plant. Next, I want to give a shout out to John Carpenter's Elvis. I believe this is the first of many collaborations between John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell obviously plays Elvis Presley in this great sort of made-for-TV biopic film. Next up is a great time-traveling movie called Time After Time. Sort of this romantic thriller that stars Malcolm McDowell and David Warner. Almost made it into my top 15, this one, but it was just pipped. Next is All That Jazz. Great musical with Roy Scheider. Next is the Best Actress winner for this year, which is Norma Ray, starring Sally Field. Sort of film about unions in the workplace. Next is sort of this British film called Quadrophenia. A great sort of British group gang slash type movie, following all these moped riders. Next is Wise Blood. This film pretty much about this this guy who's in the army who wants to start his own church, but he wants to start it without Christ. Yeah, quite an underrated film, that one. And last but not least is a little film called My Brilliant Career. Sort of this period drama about a woman who wants to choose between love or her career. I thought it was pretty good. So, yeah, the quite a large number of honourable mentions from this year. Big. This year had a lot to offer. So, that being said, I'm going to get into my top 15. So, coming in at number 15 for me is the first of many films in a franchise, and that is Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I never grew up with these films, and I never grew up watching Star Trek, and it was only while I was at university that I ended up watching the entire original series. And then later on, after I'd left university, only really about a year ago, I got into watching the films, and the first film I really loved. It really sort of reminded me of Stanley Kubrick's 2001. It sort of takes this much slower approach, and I know a lot of hardcore Star Trek fans don't like this film because of that, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's got some great scenes as well when it introduces Spock into the film, but I absolutely really love this one. So yeah, that's my number 15. Coming in at 14 for me is Sir Roger Moore's fourth outing as James Bond in Moonraker. This film sort of came about because of the success of Star Wars, and they pretty much wanted to make James Bond in space. There's quite a few people that don't really like this one. It sort of gets a bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit slapsticky, but no, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the villain Drax as well. He's quite a creepy Bond villain, and I did enjoy. I sort of enjoyed the comedy with what they do with Jaws as well. So yeah, that's my number 14 pick. Coming in at number 13 for me is a sequel to the Best Picture winner from '76, and that is Rocky 2. Picks up pretty much exactly straight after the first one, and it sort of follows Rocky dealing with defeat, dealing with his relationship, what he could have done. Fantastic payoff at the end of this one. If you saw the first one and didn't like the ending, this one gives you that ending for the first one, if that's what you wanted. Really underrated sequel as well. Doesn't get as much, not as good as the first one, doesn't get as much love as the first one, but it shouldn't be forgotten. It is a great sequel. So next on the list for me, coming in at number 12, is Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz. Great prison movie this, and a great escape movie as well. So it sort of follows Clint Eastwood and these two other convicts that plan an escape from Alcatraz, which it's believed that no one else has ever managed to break out of before. And quite a surprising ending as well. You don't really know if they make it or not. I actually went to Alcatraz a few years ago, and on the tour, they tell you that this was based on a true story, and on the tour they tell you, there's still a warrant out for the people that escaped, even though it doesn't function as a prison anymore. It's solely a tourist attraction. They still they're still looking for the escapees all these years later. And I watched the film before, and I watched it after I went to San Francisco, and yeah, it's a really good one. It holds up all these years later. Just a fantastic film. So next for me, coming in on the 11th spot, is actually the film that won Best Picture this year. It also won Best Director, Best Actor for Dustin Hoffman, and Best Supporting Actress for Meryl Streep. And that's Kramer versus Kramer. Sort of a film that deals with divorce and follows the relationship between father and son. Just some really hard-hitting topics in this, and great performances from all the actors, giving 100% all round, from the three main leads as well. Great film. If you've not seen it, check it out. Coming in at the number 10 spot for me is a sort of film I've had a sort of on-off relationship with this film where I've been in the mood to watch it, and sometime for long periods I haven't watched it, and that's the Muppet Movie. Yeah, rewatching this again, I actually really enjoyed it. It sort of tells an origin about the Muppets, and we start off with Kermit the Frog, who wants to make it in Hollywood and being known in show business, and we meet all the other Muppets along the way who sort of have the same dream, and he's constantly being harassed by this restaurant owner that wants him to be the spokesperson for his restaurants that mainly specialise in frog's legs. But yeah, no, it's a great little comedy and a great little movie that I really enjoyed. So coming in at the number 9 spot for me is a great sort of coming of age film, and that is Breaking Away. So this film basically follows these 4 students who are coming to the end of their tenure at school and will be moving on to college the next year. And the main character we follow is this kid who's sort of obsessed with Italy and Italian culture, and he loves cycling. He gets his mum to make him all these Italian dishes. And the other guys in the town don't really like them because of their working class background, and but they embrace it. And towards the end of the film, there's this big bike race coming up that they want to participate in, and it's sort of got this sort of great underdog story at the end as well. But I really enjoyed this one. So coming in next for me, the number 8 spot is Al Pacino in And Justice for All. Great legal drama, this one. Sort of Al Pacino, who's this up and coming law attorney, has to deal with these real sort of difficult topics like murder. And it sort of focuses on whether you should do the right thing or not, even if that isn't always the case. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Gives you a lot to think about in terms of morals and that. But no, I really like this one. So coming in next for me, at the number 7 spot, is I believe Steve Martin's first feature film, and that is The Jerk. So it follows Steve Martin, who was pretty much raised. He was raised in a black household, and it doesn't really have sort of any idea about that or how people would accept it or anything like that. And they often dance, and the guy just doesn't have any rhythm at all, and he ends up sort of inventing these goggles, and it results in someone dying, and all the money he makes from the goggles he ends up being sued for and having to give all the money back, and he ends up broke at the end. But I won't spoil it, but something else comes along that changes everything for him. I really enjoyed it. Just a little comedy film that was really enjoyable. So coming in next for me, at the number 6 spot, is The Warriors. I've got it in this the Blu-ray of it in this sort of special VHS packaging. Great gang movie, this one. So it sort of focuses about these all these gangs in New York, and how on this one night they come together, and there's this respected leader there who's addressing all the gangs, and he ends up getting murdered in front of everyone, and this one particular gang ends up getting framed for the murder. So because of that, there's sort of there's a wantedness put on them, like a bounty put on them, and all the other gangs end up trying to go after them and get them and kill them. Really, really good action film as well. Yeah, didn't grow up with this film, but saw it only a few years ago, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Had it on DVD, and I ended up upgrading it to the Blu-ray. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. So next for me, coming in at the number 5 spot, is possibly my favourite Woody Allen film, and that is Manhattan. I know Woody Allen himself wasn't exactly happy with the outcome of this film, but I think it's his masterpiece and his magnum opus. So it sort of follows Woody Allen's character, who's this sort of 42-year-old divorcee who's been divorced twice, and he's in a relationship with a 17-year-old, and how it's his life's changed through the years. One of his ex-wives now a lesbian, and the shots in this film of New York at the beginning are just so fantastic and so beautiful, and the music used, George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, it just fits hand in hand with the New York scenery of Manhattan. It's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and the acting, the writing, and the dialogue are just on point in this film as well for me. Absolutely loved it. Coming in next for me is the first in George Miller's Mad Max films, and that is Mad Max. Great, gritty revenge film set in this dystopian future. Not a film I grew up with. I did see it once when I was younger, but I didn't love it. I didn't really see the hype around it, and I didn't really get it. But I rewatched it many years later, and I thought it was just brilliant. Just a brilliant action film. Accomplishes a lot with very little, and I love films that do that. One I didn't appreciate when I first saw it, but my appreciation for it has increased tenfold for it now. I think it's a great masterpiece. Not the best in the series, but for a starting point, yeah, fantastic. So coming in next for me at the number 3 spot is Monty Python's Life of Brian. Touched a nerve with a lot of people when this film first came out. I do believe it was banned as well, because it was sort of seen as this blasphemy film. So it sort of follows someone who's basically mistaken for the Messiah and Jesus Christ, who was born on the same night as Jesus, next door to the manger he was born in, and is mistaken by the 3 wise men to be the Messiah. The scenery in this is just a fantastic film. Monty Python themselves playing all these different characters. All of them are memorable. Always Look on the Bright Side of Life at the end as well is just one of the catchiest songs, and one of the funniest scenes for me in the film is towards the end, where the crucifixions are taking place and the guards there checking everyone's they're supposed to be crucified, and one guy says, "Oh no, they said I can go. I'm free." And he's like, "Oh, okay, then off you go." And he's like, "No, I'm only joking. I'm here for crucifixion." He's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, just a very, very well made film. Keep your eyes peeled as well. George Harrison makes a cameo in the film. Yeah, absolutely enjoyed that one. It's coming in at the number 2 spot for me is another Francis Ford Coppola film, and what a decade the 70s was for him. And that is the war epic Apocalypse Now. Possibly, hands down, the greatest film about the Vietnam War, which doesn't actually sort of focus on the Vietnam War, it just takes place in the Vietnam War. Follows sort of Martin Sheen's character, who's been set with the mission of finding and taking out Colonel Coots, who's this believed to be a very dangerous individual, played by Marlon Brando. Some sort of production stories about the film as well. I believe Brando was charging extortionate amount for his salary to be in the film. Something like $3 million a day, I believe it was. Ridiculous like that. I believe Martin Sheen as well had a lot of health problems while making the film. I believe they shot a particular scene towards the beginning of the film where he just ends up in a trance and hallucinating on his actual birthday. And I believe he had a heart attack while making the film as well. It just seems absolutely insane. And I believe Coppola was pushing for this film to be made. Like, conditions it was made under were absolutely extreme. The cast in the film as well is absolutely fantastic. As I said, you've got Martin Sheen, you've got Marlon Brando, you've got Harrison Ford, Lawrence Fishburne, Dennis Hopper, Robert Duvall. Great cast. And the music as well at this, you've got Ride of the Valkyries as this theme, as the helicopters are just make this booming entrance and take over, wipe out this entire sort of village. And then you've got the sort of mellow music at the doors, seeing this horrific, beautiful imagery of these explosions at the beginning of the film. Just very, very pleasing and visual to the eye. Yeah, just a absolutely fantastic piece of filmmaking. So coming in at the number 1 spot for me from this year is pretty much one of the best horror sci-fi hybrids in terms of genre for me, and that is Ridley Scott's Alien. Yeah, absolutely fantastic claustrophobic film. The opening titles to this film just send shivers down my spine. Particularly the reveal of the title is fantastic. The cast in this is fantastic. You've got the famous chest burster scene with John Hurt, Ian Holmes, Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, the director's cut for me is probably my favourite version. There's a couple of scenes added that are really creepy and really terrifying. You got Harry Dean Stanton in the film as well. The design of the alien itself, the xenomorph, is just terrifying. The mouth within the mouth. Yeah, again, it's another film that does so much with very little. The presence of the aliens just completely felt, particularly in one scene involving sort of vents and a screen. And you don't even see the alien, and you're terrified of it as you watch this scene. Yeah, just an absolutely fantastic film. One of Ridley Scott's best. Followed up as well by one of the best sequels ever made. And what you can do with this film, because this film to me is so self-contained. You can watch it and be like, well, how would they make a sequel to that? It's perfect the way it is, but James Cameron managed to do that. But that's a story for another day. So yeah, that is my number one pick. Twists and turns to it as well with some of the characters' motives in this, particularly in Ian Holmes. But yeah, no. Not a film as well. I sound like another broken record saying this, but not a film I loved initially the first time I saw it. Had to sit and marinate with this one. Grew on me. Saw it a couple more times as I got older, and again, appreciation for it went through the roof. Fell in love with it more and more each time I watched it. And this is my favourite film from 79. So yeah, that is going to wrap up the series of videos from the 1970s decade. Got to be back shortly with first of the 80s with my top my top 20 favourite films from 1980. As the years are going on, more and more films got released, so it's really, really hard to narrow the list down. But yeah, no, thanks very much for watching this, and I'm going to be back with 1980 soon. So yeah, thanks very much again, and take care.